Hello everyone, thank you once again for joining my channel. We are following the Suberbet Chess Classic. This is round 3, the only decisive game of the day between Hungarian Grandmaster Richard Rapport with the white pieces and Bogdan Daniel Deac, the local representative from Romania with the black pieces who was rated 2671. I just want to remind everyone that Chess Audiobooks is on Chess, chess.com, Instagram, and Twitter. The same name is here, so I'm easy to find. So please follow me on those platforms and help me grow the channel. And please hit the thumbs up button, consider subscribing, and also check the links below and consider supporting my channel via a donation. All right, let's get right into it. So Rapport is known for his, I would say, offbeat chess style. Right, he reminds me of players like Marvazevich, Bent Larson, Dubov. Right, for a modern reference. So this game right here, we have this Nimzo Indian Rubinstein variation where the knights are on f3 and e2, and therefore it doesn't make any sense for black to part with the bishop on c3 because there's no benefit of just giving up the bishop here, as white will simply just replace the knight on c3 with the other knight. So after c5, d5 is played, c takes d5, queen d6, b4, and bishop b6 is played. Bishop b2, knight bd7, then knight g3 from Rapport. Now we have this pawn structure known as a Karo-Slav structure, and I'm speaking of black's pawn structure, whereby you'll see a similar pawn structure if the Karo-Khan opening was played, and you see the same structure in Slav defense. You also see the structure in Scandinavian defense. So not to go off on a big tangent, but that's one of the reasons why you want to learn structures as opposed to learning openings, because if you learn how to play the structure, you'll be able to use it in various different situations. So in this type of structure, black's strategy is to break with either c5 or the e5 pawn advance. As you can see here, with white having his pawns on b4 and d4, it's very difficult for black to achieve the usual move c5. Alright, he would need more preparation, maybe even play a5 and try to break down the pawn on b4. So e5 is the break that black will be going for, because as a result of playing this particular variation of the Nimzo Indian, with white placing his knight on g1 to e2, he forfeited, right, his usual stronghold on e5. Usually the knight is on f3, and in combination with the d4 pawn makes it hard for black to play e5. But here, when you put the knight on e2, then e5 is a bit easier to play. And these breaks are important for black because if you notice, even though his position is very solid, it's hard to maneuver the pieces because of the cramped nature of the position. All of black's pawns and pieces are confined to the first 3 ranks, whereas white has more space as he occupies the first 4 ranks. So game continued. Rook d8, bishop c4, e5. There it is. Queen b3, e takes d4, bishop takes f7 check, king h8, e takes d4, and bishop d4. All right, and now black has dissolved the white center, and also has a 3-2 majority on the queen side. So this is good in the ending. All right, now he still has to get the rest of his pieces out. As you can see, it's still a little logjam on the d file here. So castles, queen side, surprising move, right? But not too surprising for Richard Rapport, because he plays in this dynamic, risky style that is really fan friendly. All right, most people would just castle king side, and maybe play can continue knight e5, knight ce4, knight takes, queen c7, and maybe we, eventually end up in some type of equal ending, or something close to being equal. However, Poor, staying true to his style, he plays the move, the castle's queen side rather, and introduces a pin on the d file against the queen. However, his king looks really unsafe, to say the least, in this particular position. Right, it looks a little sketchy. All right. Here, Deac plays a move, knight e5. It looks like a good, strong quality move because it's addressing several issues. One of the most important issues that's being addressed is the cramp situation. He needs to get the rest of the pieces out. The rook on a8, the bishop on c8. All right, so moving the knight does that, and he's attacking the bishop on f7, and he has other ideas of getting this queen off of the d file where it's lined up with the rook on a1. The queen can go back to, say, f8, e7, and with tempo get off the d file and attack the light square bishop that is just hanging out on f7. All right. Now, other idea here is c5, which is very natural move to basically just continue to attack the exposed king, or expose the king even more. Right? Black would love to open up the c file, of course, get the bishop out off of c8 and bring the other rook to c8 and harass the king. And so, for instance, here play could go king b1, queen f8, attacking that bishop, f4, knight b6, and this is just a sample line. Knight b6, of course, threatening to move c5. Queen takes c5, rook he1, bishop comes out with tempo, rook c1. Again, the queen has to move. f5, bishop f2, and rook f1. And this is like a double-edged position, but black has all his pieces out, and except the rook on a8, which is coming to c8. And I think even here, black is a little better just due to the king safety issues. So c5, the viable option here. However, at the c5, instead of the move king b1, white could even try to play a little more risky here and play this move knight b5. Knight b5 hitting the queen and the bishop at the same time. This kind of forces some exchanges. And this is good for white as far as the king safety aspect is concerned, right? You get rid of some of the pieces, then the king can kind of hang out in the open. This is the reason why in the endgame the king comes out in the endgame, because all the pieces are gone. He can't get checkmated. Bishop takes b2. Okay. King takes, queen e5 check, king b1, rook f8. Other rook comes into play, queen f4. Queen trade offered. And this is like a double-edged position here. All right. Play for both sides. Now, knight e5 was played in the game. It's hard to knock this move right here. It does a lot of things. But Rapport, after knight e5, Rapport was able to play the move knight ce4, attacking the queen and the knight on e5. And the downside, I would say, of black's move, because you haven't really heard me criticize it, the downside is that it leads to a bunch of exchanges, which makes it almost justifies white white leaving his king exposed, or leaving his king in such a drafty position if he can exchange a whole bunch of pieces here. Also, you might notice I have the f4 square highlighted. The reason why is because the knight that's on e5 is blocking the queen on d6 from being able to check on that square. And that's important in the following variation. So after knight uh, after knight e5, you see it's moved knight ce4. So let's go back where the knight is not blocking that square now. So let's say, for instance, black had played the move I suggested, c5. Now, if knight ce4, the queen can now go to e5 and just check. Now would just be winning for black, of course. The knight will have to go back or just be captured, and white will lose a piece. And then black's counterattack will be on its way. And now you can see fantastic attack for black here. Right? For instance, king b1, bishop b5, and this is what you want if you're black, to punish Rapport for castling queenside in that type of position. However, after knight e5, the queen on d6 cannot get to f4 now, and this is what allows the move knight ce4. So now with knight ce4, the queen is attacked, the bishop is attacked, the rook is on d1, so the pieces are forced off, and luckily for black, he has this check here. All right, bishop takes b2 check, everything's forced. Queen takes b2, knight d3, report. Rook takes d3, queen takes d3, and now everything comes off, and Rapport gets an attack to boot. Knight takes f6, and queen takes. Deac cannot recapture because he would get mated. You see? So he has to play queen d6 here. Mate is threatened again. And now queen h6 check. Another option was queen f8. I believe white is better here. White is up a piece. Right? It's the exchange, but he's still up a piece. And again, look at the development. Rook on a8, bishop still on c8. So that's why I knocked this move knight e5. Although it had some brilliant qualities to it, it just led to this mass exchange of pieces where I felt Rapport was becomes a little bit better, and he's basically was let off the hook. So I would definitely say c5 is the move there. So moving on, not to continue to beat that dead horse, you can see that it led to all of these exchanges. And so now white's king can hang out and is relatively safe. All right, so mate was threatened again, queen h6. All right, so white's king has breathing room now due to these exchanges, right? And is up an extra piece. All right, and these imbalances here suit Rapport's style. So far so good for him. f4, blocking the check here. All right, bishop g4, finally getting the piece out, and now queen e5 dominating the center. Right, it's hard for dominating the center and black's pieces. It's hard for black to say come to the d file or anything. Okay, a5 trying to open up the position. Rapport just takes. B takes a5, and look where the queen is. The queen is there, so the pawn cannot be recaptured. So rook d7, harassing the bishop, and now Rapport plays bishop e8 here. All right, he's still in attack mode. Bishop b3. All right, it might be time for white to go in an ending where he has just this extra minor piece. So say after bishop b3, queen d6, for example. Queen takes, rook takes. All right, and this is good ending for white. Right, that extra piece is going to be heard. All right, the extra minor piece. Again, this is just an example. Okay. So bishop b3 instead of bishop e8. All right, bishop e8 was played, and now rook d8. All right, so now rook e1, and black is just trying to keep basically white. White is trying to keep black from just basically getting his pieces into the game. King g8, and now knight f5, and this game. I mean, I'll give my thoughts afterward, but about Rapport in this game. So knight f5, of course, now you have a triple attack on the g7 pawn. So black parts with the bishop, and now bishop f7. King takes f7, queen takes, king g8, rook e7, so threatening the g7. So rook f8 threatening the queen. Queen e5, again another triple attack on g7. Rook f7, rook e6 hitting the queen, g6, and it seems like white is just so close, right? Like he needs like one more move, or just like, like some just one tempi, and he can win, or it has that feel to it. Looks like that. Knight f6, king h8, right? You look at this, you're like, man, it has to be something here for white. How could it not be? Right? But chess is a brutal game. Right? Chess is a brutal game. Right? You can have the highest of highs and chess, lowest of lows. Right? And all it takes is one error and you can lose everything. Or if your opponent makes the error, you win. Right? You're totally busted and now you're just winning. And then you're sitting at the board smiling. And I think that's why we love the game. Rapport plays g4 here. Okay. None of these discoveries work for any decisive advantage. They're all draws. Knight h5 check, for instance. King g8. There's no way to mate or win material. Knight f6, rook takes. All right, and now you're just like in this rook, queen and rook ending, and with the king exposed like that, it's most likely a draw, because you could just check for days. Just keep checking, finding ways to check, and again, it's just a sample line. Right, that's knight h4. Knight e8, same thing, and it leads to similar continuations. All right, both kings are pretty exposed at this point, so the perpetual check is highly likely. Of course, mistakes can be made. So Rapport is trying to look for the knockout below. He plays g4, gives up the pawn to h2. Now rook d6. Now there's the protector. He can't see anything decisive, so rook d6 is so he can protect the king. Again, knight d5 is not gonna work. You see, same scenario. So he plays rook d6 here, queen h1, and now king c2. If rook d1 here is playable, then just the queen just hops back to h4, attacking with a double attack on the knight. Yeah. So on queen h1, he plays king c2, queen g2, and Rapport plays rook d2 check. All right. I want to add that at this time, Richard Rapport is in tremendous trouble at this point. Queen h3. He plays this move, king b2. Also possible is f5. Queen takes a3. Knight takes h7 check. Of course, the king cannot capture because he will end up getting mated after the rook goes to h2. So king g8, knight f6. And again, you have these similar situations where the checks will abound. So Rapport plays king b2, queen f1, and knight takes h7, and this is analogous to what I just said. If king takes h7, rook h2, and that's going to lead to mate. Therefore, just king g8. And now, I believe Rapport had a few seconds left on his clock. Remember, it's a move 40, so he has to make the time control. He had like 3 seconds on his clock here, and I'll show the footage at the end, so you can see the exact time. But here he plays the move knight g5. Again, it looks great on paper, attacking the rook on f7. Okay, it looks like maybe he's finally making some progress. Black's other rook is still unmoved and out of the game. So therefore, it looks like Rapport's hard work, his effort, the unorthodox play, taking chances, right, taking risk is paid off. All right. However, it's a blunder. He blunders the position. The position is actually is just a drawn position. Again, if he played knight f6 here, you get the similar type positions. All right, you're gonna go into this rook ending, both sides having chances, etc. Again, f5, going to the ending. All right, and this is a little bit better since black still remains up the exchange. All right, but again, should be able to draw. So f5 or knight f6 acceptable. Knight g5 unacceptable. All right, because this leaves the pawn just hanging. Queen takes f4, and now the queens are forced off the board because the rook is attacked on d2, hanging, and the queen is hanging. All right. Of course, if knight takes f7, then just queen takes d2 with check. Game over. So queen takes, and the rest really needs no commentary. That was a blunder for the ages right there. Of course, Rapport is playing on emotion. He probably really realizes he's lost, and the rook finally comes to life on a8, and the local guy finally gets his win. Rapport makes a couple of token moves, and then finally resigns on move 52. So wild game, entertaining game from both players, but sad at the same time. I mean, if you've been playing chess for a while, you know what it's like to have like brutal loss, and you know what it's like to build up a position for the whole game. You might spend an hour, 2 hours in building up the position, and then what do? Right? You relax, and then that's when you make a mistake. Or you spend all that time building up the winning position, but you use so much time on the clock that now the time becomes a factor, right? And you make a mistake, and this is what happened to Richard Rapport here. At move 40, at the time control, he makes the wrong move, and it led to just dire consequences. So I actually felt bad for him, because I can definitely empathize with those type of situations, and I'm sure you can too out there. So stick around for a second or two. I'm just gonna show that footage, exact footage of at move 40. As you can see right there, Rapport has about 24 seconds left on the clock.
Just makes a draw, I assume, because there's just a whole empty board for the white king to try and hide, and there's just no hiding.
Richie getting nervous as his clock is definitely ticking down into the teens. Well, you can see a little agitation with his hands. 7 seconds. And knight g5.
-5. Yeah,
What?
He does overpress occasionally, yeah.
He went from equal.
I think he forgot his. And this was agreed to a draw in a 3-4 repetition, as Fabi does draw against Wesley from a worse position. But it seems like Rapport, fateful move 40, has simply blundered his position away. I don't know if he forgot that his d2 rook is hanging with check, but queen takes f4 just wins.
Yeah.
Queen f4
Queen
just wins.
takes f4.
Yeah.
And he is crunched. Boy, did he snap.
I heard that one all the way from here.
I mean, we're only 8,000 kilometers away, right? I mean, and queen takes f4.
Oh, what a blow.
Oh, no.
What a blow. Yeah,
Richard on his 40th move.
It's just game. There's nothing to do here.
I mean, knight f6 check. And
make a draw.
Draw. Oh, my gosh.
He must have forgotten
Yeah.
d2.
Yeah, D2, because you would think knight takes f7.
Of course, knight takes f7,
And then-
and you can't, and then queen takes in. Okay, I'll still press.
I'll press. You know, you probably saw rook h2, queen g7 is okay for black, but maybe I have another move like rook d6. I don't know.
Right, rook
And
d6
then-
would be a drawing.
And then he realized, knight f7, queen d2, you just resign.
Yeah.
Whoops, knight takes f7.
And you can see him shaking his head. Yeah,
the realization. It just sunk in. Like, what on earth?
He
did I
can't
just
even
do?
continue. Like the game
game
cannot be
just ends.
continued. Yeah, you just shake your opponent's hand here.
Yeah.
Like everything collapses. You have to.
Horrifying. These are the worst losses because you're not even sure what you learned from the loss.
You learned not to blunder and move 40, but I mean, how many times do we need to learn that lesson?
Exactly.
To our coverage, just as Richard Rapport comes to grips with the inevitable after his horrible blunder on move 40, signs the score sheets and leaves the table, and Bogdan Deac, the local player, is now in the lead on +1 together with Jan Nepomniachtchi and Wesley. So very, very impressive game, which was somewhat marred by that mistake on move 40, once again prompted by Richard's desire not to accept that the game can be ended in a draw, basically. Like he just really dislikes stopping the game.
All right, so there you have it, the heartbreak included. And what Peter Fiddler said at the end was very poignant, how he was saying that Richard Rapport just hates draws and that he just overpresses sometime. And again, that's why I said he reminds me of certain players like Larson and Morozevich, who they're just gonna go to the beat of their own drum, and again it's gonna produce exciting chess for the fans, and it's gonna produce some spectacular wins, but the losses are going to be spectacular also. It's gonna be a roller coaster ride if you're a fan of these players. They're gonna bring you some joy, and they're gonna just make you, just shake your head sometime. So anyway, I want to reiterate again that I'm on these different chess platforms, and I would love for you to join me there. And also, please check the links below. There's a lot of DVDs that I placed down there, books that you may be interested in. Of course, the donation link is down there also. So most importantly, hit that thumbs up button, get in the comment section, and I will see you guys on the next video.